Hello and welcome, Star Wars fans, to this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks, a show where we debate takes so hot that they melt a planet with twin suns. My name's Brody, and this week I'm joined by my co-hosts Amanda and Christian as we attempt to discover what story is truly the best from a galaxy far, far away. On this week's episode, we're going to be ranking Star Wars Episode 4, 5, and 6.
Those 4, 5, and 6?
Not the ones you're thinking.
Oh, yeah. Not the ones you're thinking of, but the ones we all know and love. The Bad Batch, Season 2, Episodes 4, 5, and 6. It's going to be a lot of fun. By the end of this episode, we'll have a definitive answer on where these pieces of Star Wars content ranks amongst the rest. With that, we're all back again.
We're all back in the studio in 3 episodes. Bam.
Yeah.
We're going to get to
We've
all
got a
of
lot.
them for you.
To go over.
Should we actually share why we're doing 3 today?
Yeah, let's give people a taste of like what
actually
the
happens.
future is coming.
The disorganization. Oh, no, I meant because Christian was gone and we lost the person who keeps us accountable and organized.
Yeah,
and, then Amanda,
I only watched 1 episode last week.
because I came in and I was like, Amanda, I'm sorry, but I got to put the second episode on TV. And she's like, why? And I'm like, what do you mean a second episode? I'm like, I haven't watched it. She's like, I didn't know we were reviewing a second episode. And so we didn't. We just did 1. And it worked out. It was great. It was a great episode. I think much better than the ones we're going to talk about today. But
yeah, it worked out. You guys did great last week. I'm sad I missed Ryan. Seems like a great guy.
Yeah.
Maybe meet him in the
He was
future.
cool.
But no.
maybe in Japan.
Maybe
A celebration.
in Japan. Yeah.
Are you going to go?
Probably.
You what?
Maybe.
Really?
Yeah, how about you?
No.
What about you?
No.
Oh, come with.
Unless someone at Lucasfilms wants to pay for all of us, like Duel of the Ranks to come through, and
Yeah.
then absolutely I will be there. But
Yeah.
I'd consider it.
I get it. You got time, and things might change. 2 years down the road, I might not be going, and you both may be
that's
going.
true.
I just think it's so funny that we were the ones that were like, for sure, we're going
Duh.
to talk you into it. And now you're like, I'd go again. And you didn't even, you were after this first one, you were like, I don't think I'd do it again. And then someone said Japan. You're like, maybe I'll go.
I've always wanted to go to Japan, so it's not for that reason. I think the only reason I wouldn't go is because if I did go, then I wouldn't get to see as much Japan.
Yeah.
You would be preoccupied
Mm.
with so much
Yeah.
of the celebration.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
Well, and a big reason too, like Europe, I got to see family when we were there. If we went to Japan, same thing. We would go see some family too. So it's not like I
Christian
would
prides
never-
himself on having
Otherworldly.
family in every continent.
Just got to keep in contact,
So you never know when you're gonna,
Well-
why did you have a strangling motion?
Got to keep in. No, it's hold the
Oh.
tethers of everyone. Keep everyone together.
Oh, okay.
So speaking of Japan, I know we aren't reviewing it officially yet, but have you guys watched any of the new Visions season?
I have
Yes.
not.
It is so good. Wow.
You know what, Amanda? I'm pretty upset with you about that, actually.
Why?
Because you said the second episode was amazing.
Did I say it was terrifying?
Oh, I thought you said amazing. I watched it right before bed.
No, I said
Oh,
I
she
literally said
specifically said
amazing and
terrifying.
terrifying are very different
I
adjectives.
thought you said
I
amazing.
said
and
don't
I watched
let your kids watch it because it's so scary.
all I saw was the preview text, and then like, oh, it's amazing. And I looked at my wife, and I was like, hours later, and I'm like, hey, Amanda said this is pretty good. We got through the first episode. You're like, that was fine. She's like, let's go to bed. I'm like, no, the second episode apparently was amazing. And we watched it, and she's just like looking at me, and I'm like, I'm sorry.
I definitely
Here,
said
here.
terrifying.
Let's read it for the court.
Yeah.
Text says, "Wow, Visions is so good!" Exclamation point. Second episode is very scary though. Not for the kiddos.
Yeah.
You
Hey,
rest your case. No
I,
further questions. Your Honor.
I'm sure, because
It was scary, wasn't it?
That was something.
That was like the scariest Star Wars I've
Guys,
felt in a
I'm
while.
scared now. I don't know if I'm gonna watch it. All right.
It was something.
It's good.
Because I was trying to watch. I was trying to watch Vision with my kids.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
should-
I told you that
she
in preparation.
gave you all the tools.
I started the first episode, and just how the first episode was going, I'm like, I turned it off because I'm like, this feels like it's getting kind of weird, and that one would have been too dark for him. So that second episode, I'm like, I'm really glad we didn't stick with it, but that was so dark.
Yeah.
It was so dark. So
But the opposite of dark is light.
Yes.
And I have some light to share with my co-host before we dive into the episodes. And that
Ooh.
was that last week was May the 4th, which
That's right.
we weren't all together. And I wanted to do something special, and I got something for each of you.
Oh my goodness.
We're doing it
Wow.
We're doing it
She's-
live.
She's showing she's the better host, and
The
we are the
bestest.
worse. Oh my
What is
goodness.
this?
So this is not sponsored, although I wish it was sponsored by Heroes and Villains, but
That's so cool.
they were running a sale for May the 4th, and I grabbed a couple shirts
That is sweet.
that
That's awesome.
just spoke to me as far as Brody and Christian. So, Brody, do you want
Oh.
to describe what's on your shirt for the
I
people who are
have
watching?
a Boba Fett lighting. It looks like he's like fighting some sort of like mythosaur or something. Cartoon from like the holiday special, and it looks like Luke Skywalker, some rebel pilot, is underneath about to meet his end with a bunch of, is it Japanese
It's
lettering?
Japanese. I think it's like from like comic.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That's so cool. Yes, Amanda, thank you. I love the shirt.
And then what
And
about yours, Christian?
I have got the one of the earliest, I think, drawings of Darth Vader by Ralph McQuarrie.
Mhm.
Looks freaking awesome. You'd recognize it if you see it, listeners. Check out the YouTube. if
I
you
love
can.
how subtle it is.
It's very subtle against the black backdrop. Got some purple and blue. That is fly.
That is
Thank you,
so,
Amanda.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. May the 4th be with
Yes.
you.
May the 4th be with all of
May
you.
the- yes, and with us all. Wow.
But it's actually May the 11th.
Yep. Now
Yep.
it is.
Now we got to take it back. We didn't get a day of.
I'm
No.
garbage. I didn't get you anything
That's okay.
yet. Maybe. Now this
It's not
is great.
why you're garbage, Christian.
I
I'm
didn't
kidding.
I didn't give
It's
it
your
to get
takes.
another one.
For yourself?
No, I didn't give in order to receive a gift from you
Oh,
guys.
yeah,
It's just
yeah.
something special that
Well, I do want to say though, Christian, I am upset with your cowardice from last week. Just not
Oh, I
showing up.
heard a lot last week. You kind of just were like, "Geez, man, I'm not even there."
I know. That's why I was so mad, because you gave last week's episode such a great piece of Star Wars content that I gave a 93. Gave it a 78. This is your one chance.
Oh, we're gonna
Defend
hash
yourself.
it out. I
Just
was ready
defend
to
yourself.
talk about the next 3 episodes.
No,
but
no.
We're
That
going
last week's-
back in time.
Let's talk about a good piece of content. Last week's. Why?
It is good.
Just why?
I gave it a good, generous score. 78% is a good, solid score.
What was wrong
I
with
think
it?
you're too hung up on the letter grade
Yep.
like you normally are.
Yep.
I will say, and my score was closer to Amanda's than yours was. I think Amanda was
It was right in
she's
the middle.
middle of us, but she's closer to
Yeah.
It's true.
my rank. So I kind of have that going for me too. But I will say, like, it was a good episode. I enjoyed it. I don't really have anything
We're
terrible.
talking
or
about
bad
Bad
to say.
Batch season 2, episode 3, y'all.
Yeah, the Solitary Clone with Cody and Crosshair. Love the soundtrack too.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a tone shift, and I think that was the most like difference and like to set itself apart,
Mhm.
which is cool and everything. But I was very surprised when I saw you gave it a 93.
93.
That's so high.
That is, you've ranked that higher than everything Star Wars, except you're within 1 percentage point of the Aldani episode of
Mm.
Andor and how you ranked it.
Aldani.
I think you have a lot lot explaining to do than I do.
Wait, hold
with
on.
my
Did you go back and
78%.
look at all my stats?
I did because I
He
was
came with the
very
receipts.
curious.
I'm so
and
glad
I
I
knew
brought this up.
I knew, oh, Broderick's, he's really not going to let this go. He's going to bring this
I
up.
was going to.
I was like, we have
Yeah.
3
fair.
episodes to talk about, but nope, he's going to want to talk about the previous one.
So
And so
Wow, how the
so-
tables turn.
I think
Yeah.
I've said what I need to say.
well, I know you're mad because you doxed me and said my real name on the show. So now
Oh.
it
Oh,
really,
yeah, that's,
it
yeah,
really is
sorry.
on. It-
That's a Brody, and that is big. It's a big stretch. I'm
Bleep
sorry.
yeah, like you have Spider-Man and you were just like throwing off my mask and like, look, everyone.
Well,
No.
what is Brody? That's normally, short for
Something.
something. I think people can put the pieces together.
His name's Brody. Clearly, his full name is insert here. All right. So yes, as far as Star Wars pieces of content goes,
Good piece of content.
I have said from the jump that this season of Bad Batch is my favorite season of any Star Wars ever. This season addresses questions I've had since I was 11. And honestly, even before that, probably since I was 8 years old. It's such a good show. It deals with such complex things. We're talking about pension plans and moving out people, and you see it within companies where they have a huge wave of layoffs with older workers who are displaced, but then they bring in all of these younger people who are probably not as good at the, or are for sure not as good at the job. But it's numbers, and we need to move some things around, whatever. And you're dehumanizing people. I love seeing what we saw with Cody with getting rid of the color of just that orange. Again, iconic character. If you grew up loving the prequels, for me, that was amazing. And then the biggest part of it was really showing, like, and we've all known this, but really there's no choice in any of this for any of them, except they all have a choice. Cody did choose to walk, and showing that regardless of situations, there is always a choice. And I felt like this episode had so many layers to break down in just the element of story alone that you don't really, I feel like this season of Bad Batch, like I said, it's just so complex in that nature. Now, these 3 episodes we're going to talk about today are not that complex.
Oh, I thought it was the best series of Star Wars ever, Brody.
Fantastic.
They have to have a few filler, it seems, to get to the real good stuff. But the good stuff's coming next week, and it's top notch. So yeah, you're going to see a lot of high praise from me.
And that's great. Like, I love, like, I don't want to take away from, if you think it's the best and awesome, like, I think that's great. Like, it's wonderful that you can pull that from season 2 of the Bad Batch, where I wouldn't just having a critical lens to it, which I think in this instance, like Bad Batch being that experiment, in this instance, I wouldn't normally be drawn to something like Bad Batch, but having to critically rank it and give it an honest review, I'd be more positive or optimistic than I probably normally would have been. Like, just watching it as a consumer, I'd be like, it was fine, I'll move on. Like, it's probably not something that I would rewatch. But looking at it with a critical lens, I have to give credit where credit's due with, like, they're trying definitely with the story, with the music. They've been on fire with like changing it up with the variety of the music this season. And that's something that's I can appreciate, especially for this series. Quick, now that we're on it, before we move on, that Crosshair moment when he kills the governor instead, I thought, maybe this is more of a hot take, I thought he was doing that out of an act of like selflessness. Like, I'm going to do the dirty work so Cody doesn't have to do that.
Yeah, it could be.
And he's just like, I'm just going to do this for him, not because I'm a good soldier, but because I've grown to like this guy, and that would suck for him to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah, see, it's a very, very, very layered episode, a lot to break down, and you're gonna see like, and I it's a 93. That's not better than like any of the films. So I'll get that out there too. It's better than really almost any of the episodes that we've watched of TV shows for me. And yeah, when we get to like seasons of Rebels, you're probably going to see some 99.999s come out because those exist in that show. So yeah, for me, great season, really enjoying it. And yeah, Amanda, should we move on?
Let's
Christian?
do it.
Yeah.
All right. What are these next 3 episodes about?
All right. I've got 3 quick summaries for you all. So episode 4, Faster. Tech, Wrecker, and Omega join Sid to Safatoma to serve as her security detail while she bets on riot racing, an extreme version of pod racing with weapons and sabotage tools. When Sid's bet doesn't go her way, her droid Teo can't race, Tech steps up. Episode 5, Entombed. The Bad Batch, with the help of Fee, are looking for an old and legendary treasure hidden in a tomb that uses a special item to navigate to the entrance under a mountain. Fee activates the tomb, which is actually a giant robot of mass destruction, which draws on similarities of the Zepho in Jedi Fallen Order. And in episode 6, Tribe, the Bad Batch is on a mission to deliver cargo to a droid smuggling ring run by deliver cargo to a droid smuggling ring run by droids. The gang runs into Gunji, who has been in hiding since Order 66, and the Batch end up rescuing him. Abandoning their mission, the group quickly escapes the ship with the young Wookiee Jedi on board as they try to return Genji to his homeworld of Kashyyyk.
Nice.
Kashyyyk.
Thank you for those summaries.
That last one was actually, I thought, really good. I also always appreciate anytime we get John Ralphio. Whoever
Yeah,
the actor is. He likes to go fast. He played Sonic. Now he's
Teo.
Teo.
Yeah.
Yeah. He added some fun to that
yeah, some
episode.
like snarky satire in
Yeah.
a droid form. He that's a perfect cast. For
Yeah,
him.
I thought that was cool, and I like Teo's design too. Like
Yeah.
another I don't know, shout out to the animating designers of that. Like I like that aesthetic for a new droid. It's innovative, it's cool, it still fits within Star Wars. And it was funny because at a moment you see Teo is more human or acts more human than Tech,
Mhm.
and like that was a
Yeah, yeah.
really cool, I don't know, just interaction juxtaposition that they want the audience to see in that.
He reminded me of a robot from I think it's a 2006 movie called Robots, starring
Yes.
Ewan
Yeah.
McGregor.
And Robin Williams is
And
in
Robin Williams.
Robin
That movie
Williams.
radicalized me. That's why I'm a socialist.
All right, I've never heard that statement in my life, but that's the design it made me think of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. And I just liked it was a nice comfort nostalgic callback to Phantom Menace, obviously, with the riot racing.
I really thought you
And then-
guys would
yeah.
rank this episode higher because of that.
It definitely, that was one of the only things for me that kind of like pulled that number higher to what it was.
Yeah.
But again, I have to hand it, during the race, it was like this hard techno cyberpunk like music. And I like that. I
Yeah,
like
sounds
when
good.
they're doing the variety of the track in here.
I couldn't have been more disinterested in the race itself.
Yeah.
Really?
I was bored. Yeah.
But why?
You knew nothing was on the line. You knew Sid wasn't going to die. And they had very clear foreshadowing with her character because she goes in, she's willing to put their necks on the line, doesn't care. She risks something and that she shouldn't be risking. Now they're going in to save her. Tech mentions, he's like, oh, it seems like we're kind of doing that a lot here. And so of course you knew they were going to save her. And they, the bad guy, whatever his name was, the mob guy, he's just like, hey, watch your backs with her.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So like very,
that was like
obvious.
the only like significant seed planted.
Yeah.
Like I haven't seen the rest of the show, but from that you're like, oh, there's some good foreshadowing there. Like,
Yeah,
like that'll
Like
probably come
obviously,
into play
if
here.
someone of Sid's stature has made some questionable choices and has had to take some like risk loss,
Yeah, you just knew he was going to win the race.
and
He
then
was-
they go double or nothing,
Yeah.
and that makes the stakes even higher.
I was like, this feels like not. There was nothing about it that felt overly special. To
I
me.
did like when they were announcing the racers and they go through the line and they say everyone's
Yeah.
name, like Glubar Shubaman and Blasta Badoo and then Tech.
Is that,
Any-
and then he's like, is that
Tech.
all this guy's
That-
name?
yeah,
Is there
they're
really
like-
anything else? He's on a hot mic.
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny. That one, like I famously don't care for Phantom Menace and I famously don't care for pod racing so much. So I actually liked that this was like more extreme pod racing.
Yeah, took it up a notch.
Yeah, it makes
If that was even possible.
but yeah, it was a fine episode.
Oh man, I was looking at episode 3 numbers and I was like, an 84.53%.
That was last week's episode.
No, that's last week. Overall, we gave this one a 59.73.
We
Cumulative.
were all pretty much on the same page there.
Yeah.
I was
A little more
Like,
favorable.
12 points higher than Brody on this one, but
Yeah.
that he had a 54. I was 66. Amanda, you were, so you just moved the spreadsheet.
Sorry.
58 and Brody had 54.
Yeah, the categories for this episode, I think the highest ranking or the score category was the lore. That was it the lore? Was it the technical aspects? That was the thing. It was very colorful and very well done, like the race scene and whatnot.
Mhm.
I thought that was like, that's good animating right there.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about my favorite episode of the 3,
Which
which
was
was Entombed.
Same here.
Really?
Favorite of the
Oh,
3.
And it might be because like Jedi Survivor is out, and also this week, if you're listening to this when it drops on Friday, then I'm probably already playing Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. But the animatronic robot thing definitely reminded me of a divine beast from Breath of the Wild, and
Hmm.
I think and this whole episode really felt like a video game puzzle.
It did.
It
Yeah.
was very.
I loved it.
I loved the Indiana Jones-esque treasure. I'm a sucker
Yeah.
for treasure hunts and like a good classic adventure. Like that is more of an adventure than
Mhm.
just like this riot race, that we had previous episode. And definitely it was cool having played Jedi Fallen Order. It was cool to have this show tie into that Zepho feel.
Mhm.
And I thought that was really awesome. Again, it wasn't as consequential to the overall story of the Bad Batch this season, but it had a good, wholesome story by itself. And again, I don't know, it was more enjoyable with Fee, and wielding that machete and stuff. And like
Mhm.
that, like it was a cool adventure story that, yeah, it was
I liked getting to see all of them do some problem solving, like when they're trying to figure out how do the walls align, or like how do we use this piece? Where
Yeah.
does it come in handy? Okay, now we leave the piece behind. Like it's not something you get to take with you.
Yeah.
All of those things had so much like video game side quest, dungeon crawl, and it just worked really well for me. Loved it. And
felt-
and it also like the treasure wasn't what you expected it to be.
Yeah.
It wasn't like there's just a bunch of gold,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah. You
And they
learn
didn't
something
get- yeah.
along the way. Return the compass to where it was, and I loved. It was very like Hobbit-esque. Did you think that, Brody, when they're in there and they're talking about the heart of the mountain, the
Yeah.
stone? I was like,
The
Arkenstone, like is very much like that. But
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. I was just laughing to myself near the end when they're like, "You need to take the cube and put it," and I was like, "Take Optimus Prime, like Sam, take the Allspark and put it in my chest now." Like it was like it's Transformers, baby. Yeah.
That's so funny. No, I loved this episode too. I really enjoyed it, but even though I only gave it a 74, and Christian, you gave it a 68. Amanda, you gave it an 81.2. So, look, I mean, I thought it was a lot of fun. I do, yeah. I mean, it had that. I think you already called out earlier that Zepho race from Fallen Order, and it kind of did have that look like with the armored walker thing that had that flat head with
Mhm.
those like
It's like
guardians.
a giraffe type
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, and like the guardians on that planet, those like metal walking things you have to fight. Very reminiscent of that. And to me, you were talking about video games, it reminded me of Skyrim, where you have to go to this dwarven kingdom, and it has all of this ancient machinery similar to what you see on Zepho. And then, yeah, you're kind of seeing something like that here with just more lighting and stuff. So, look, it was really cool. And what I love about these episodes is it makes you want to look up so much more, because your curiosity is piqued. You're like, well, who are the mystics? What's their deal? And so it pops off like, and that's like, I think when Star Wars is at its best is when it really gets people curious about so much other stuff that's really inconsequential to the story.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I thought that was really great. I'm not a big fan of what is the treasure hunter's name?
Fee?
What's her name? Yeah, not a fan. She feels kind of like Wrecker in that they're just overly like campy, corny lines. And, sorry, goggles. And just the same thing with Sid. It's like, all right, just
I think it's tough kind of figuring out what the intention was of her character when she first shows up on screen, and I think this episode starts to lay out the differences between Sid and Fee, and that Fee is actually like a doer, and she is actually going to go and try
Yeah.
to like retrieve this herself too. It's not like she's just telling people what to do. And she also kind of instills in Omega that like you can't really believe all of the big stories that like Sid and I talk about. Like, yeah, when we talk about we have like all of this treasure and all of this stuff, like it's not always that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like this was her episode too, in terms of like a character development where she herself had to wrestle with and grow with the consequence of not having the treasure. You know, she
Yep.
wanted to get the treasure and they're challenged like, no, like we need to preserve or like destroy this beast.
Yeah.
And
Which is
she
kind
had
of
to
a
wrestle with
parallel
that.
to like episode 2 when Omega wants to save the treasure
yeah.
falling out of the war chest.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was very much I think Fee has a little bit more going for her than in terms of what you're talking about, like the campiness, bro, like than what Sid and what I think Fee is just a little bit more interesting in that
Sure.
regard. But I get it. Yeah, it's like she was there for this adventure episode.
Doesn't she call Sid Brown Eyes?
I think she called Tech Brown Eyes.
Tech Brown Eyes. Who does she call Goggles?
I just got
Oh,
the
Sid
two.
calls Tech
Yes.
goggles.
Oh, that's right.
Tech is
But like Brown
Goggles
Eyes is
and
like
Brown
the
Eyes.
most boring nickname to give someone. Hey, Al Brown Eyes. Like literally they're clones. They all have brown eyes.
But his eyes stick out to her, so watch
oh,
out.
she's got eyes for him.
Yeah,
That-
she's interested in
That immediately no. First of all, voiced by Wanda Sykes, famous lesbian comedian. So it doesn't even match up.
I look, and I'm gonna say this with like no spoilers. I fully intend as if I'm a matchmaker. No, I believe those two will end up, and they will be very happy together at some point or another, because this is Star Wars, and they've got to have their happy ending. So
All couples in Star Wars have happy endings.
all of them. That's what Star Wars is famous for.
This
All couples.
is great.
And if they
guys.
don't
Picking up
die, they're
some
your
dark
siblings. So.
subtleties here.
Surprise, Fee and Tech are siblings.
Yep. Sucks for you guys. No, overall, I mean, what I do appreciate about her character from this episode is that we do see a big difference between her and Sid as well, is that she's not all about the money, where, you know, maybe she might seem like, you know, like what was it Omega said? She's like, well, like something like, well, at least we found it. Or hey, at least we went on
Yeah,
this
and she was
adventure.
like,
And
that's the way to look at it.
That's the way. And I'm like, well, maybe she's saying that because she knows, like, yeah, that was a blunder. Or maybe she really believes, like, I'm really out here to live. And that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from her, because there is this positive attitude about everything. She's not always talking about the prize so much as she's talking about the grind to get there,
Mhm.
and how much
Yeah.
she enjoys that.
Especially with like, what was it? The compass that was forever locked in
Mhm.
that wall. And she's like, that's fine. The compass is now where it belongs. It's returned to its
Yeah.
whatever. And so like, Fee
But I
kinda,
felt like
gets
Omega in that
journey.
moment where I was like, no, like I
Yeah.
want to take it with me.
Yeah, and Fee's like,
Yeah.
no, that's part of treasure hunting. Like,
Yeah,
that's-
that was really cool. I liked how Fee was kind of like her shaman.
And there were moments where they were like, you got to get rid of the key. And she's like, yeah, how much is this worth? Like,
yeah.
are you crazy? But she does, like,
Had the
rightfully
Indiana
so
moment.
immediately be like, all right, yeah, I gotta.
It's amazing how like they turn on the beast and then immediately it like blows something up. They're like, what? Like that is like the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we found this treasure. Oh my gosh.
What have we done?
Turn it off.
What have I
Yeah.
done?
What have I
And then I love
done?
how when they like put that piece in there to like throw it off, but then they all stand so close to it and they're like, oh my god, is it gonna blow up? And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
maybe go somewhere else.
Yeah,
Ugh.
that. But overall, and like someone was writing, like, yeah, that's the first example of a planet destroying weapon Star Wars has in
Wow.
ancient history. Because, I mean, the ancients predate the Jedi.
Yeah.
However old the Jedi are.
Older.
Yeah. Whatever that is. I think I said something like 18 BBY or something like that. I don't even know, but that can't be true because that's before the Battle of Yavin.
Yeah.
So
Maybe like 1800 BBY.
it's got to be older than that.
Older.
Yeah. 18,000.
18 million
Let's keep going.
BBY.
Well, so where did this episode overall rank? And I'm curious, what was the highest category? The lore, probably.
Yep, season 2, episode 5 of Bad Batch, we gave a 74.67% with the immersive universe lore getting an 11.6.
And the
tied with
music.
Same with music was good.
Music, yeah, is really delivering.
It slaps.
If it's like sad for me that it's, which is funny because I gave it a 74. The overall is 74.67. So it's sad for me it has that score though, because I did enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
But as you were talking about earlier, that critical lens, like there's really not that much to dissect from the
Yeah.
story perspective. Characters, as I already alluded to, there's hit or miss. Tech, it was the immersive universe, like there was a lot there. I think that was the one area I could have bumped up a little bit, just even bringing up the ancients. But yeah, I mean, just dissecting it in that way, there's not really a whole lot to piece apart here.
Yeah.
So the last
But then
episode,
the next one,
about the
You ranked
Wookiees.
it as your favorite.
Tribe.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised no one else did too.
What about it made it your favorite of the three?
Let's see, episode 6 here. Yeah, with the Wookiee. What's his name?
Gunji.
Gunji. I loved. First off, I loved being able to see what were those. Were there Trandoshans in
Yeah.
this episode?
Yeah.
That was cool because yeah, obviously they've got beef with Wookiees already. The villain was just all out bad. We're humanizing Wookiees in this episode. One of the, I think the most like the biggest form of humanization we've ever had of them, excluding the holiday special. And we're seeing them like in community and family and eating together and everything. And then you're seeing the villain being like, yeah, I'm going to give out Wookiee pelts to whoever gets me, like dark. And like, the clones are after the Jedi, and you're seeing like death in this episode and destruction. You're seeing the villain like die in this like almost horrific way where he's going to be eaten alive. And Gunji's like, I could do something about it. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna let this play out. And so it was definitely darker in that regard. But overall, it was cool to see him go back. It was cool to, he doesn't have a family, but he's getting adopted into that tribe.
And he's back with his own people on his home planet.
Yeah. And you think about it from the perspective of the Bad Batch, where they're kind of like, well, where's our next home? They're really nomadic at this point. They're trying to find their own people they can return to. And all the while, Omega's just taking all of this in, and she's seeing other clones continue to turn on them and it was cool too, because you got those, the cannon ships that the B-1 battle droids fire. Whatever those tanks are.
Yeah, it was like those old separatist tanks from.
Yeah, so you saw that fighting alongside clone troopers for the first time.
Yeah.
And yeah, overall, like I gave this an 82% because I think for me, the immersive universe, there was a lot there. I loved the music, technical aspects. Anytime you get to see Kamino done well, it's a treat. Yeah, sorry.
Kamino is no more.
Yeah, sorry, that's gone. Kashyyyk, that's always a treat. But yeah, characters, I really felt for Gunji. So I felt like this was, I don't know, I connected with someone I couldn't understand.
Oh, that's
There you go.
ultimately what Star Wars is about.
Some Shrewook speaking in this one. Yeah, no, I wasn't as like enthralled with this episode or as entertained, but I did think or appreciate when they brought him on their ship and he was very, traumatized. Like, I don't want anything to do with these clones.
Yeah.
And you're just forced to think like, I can't imagine what he's seen, So like for him to like struggle with that. So I thought that was one of the more, I don't know, real moments of that episode.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can only imagine like Gunji's been like on his own entirely. Like that could be a whole series.
Yeah. And that's like these episodes. You just think about that. You're just like, this is insane.
This is the cost of war.
This is like a child.
And then Kashyyyk itself was like burnt down. Like it wasn't.
It was not a pretty picture.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of burning, a lot of sacrifice, whatnot. Did anyone else think it was interesting? The droids were trafficking or smuggling people, or living beings, but the droids
aren't living.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, no one's fighting for their rights now, are they?
Oh wow!
Wow.
Freedom for droids
takes.
Until they start a slave trade, then no more freedom.
Yeah, you guys have.
You've forfeited that.
Yeah.
You forfeited your freedom. That is gross. You guys are gross now. Go away.
But I thought it was interesting. I'm like, oh, that's another great like sci-fi trope to like put into Star Wars. You know, I liked, you know, in their voices. I thought that was a cool technical aspect of this episode. Those droids.
Yeah, that was cool. I recently watched a YouTube short, and George Lucas is in the desert, supposed to be tattooing with Steven Spielberg. And
Tattooing?
And it's supposed to be
Tattooing?
Tattooing.
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 Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just
The
tattooing
verb or the
somebody.
planet?
Yeah, they're just out, tattooing people. But no, he's with Steven Spielberg in the desert, and he's showing off a B-1 battle droid model. And as a kid, I remember watching it being like, oh man, they are so imposing. And thank you, KG, Tunisia. Apparently that's where it was filmed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's not in Tatooine.
yeah, well, okay. It's real in my heart. Anyway,
If you find the two suns, you let me know.
if I found the two suns, I've stared at it too long. But anyway, so I'm watching it, and he's talking about how like, oh yeah, the Jedi cut these guys down like butter. They're terrible. They're inefficient. They're the worst. And I was like, wow. As a kid watching The Phantom Menace, I was like, these guys are so imposing. They've got to be so much more deadly than stormtroopers because they're robots, and they've got all this stuff going for them. And then yeah, you watch them as adults. You're like, yeah, they kind of suck, but so do stormtroopers. And then I realized George Lucas made it so they all suck.
Yeah.
Like intentionally. He
Yeah.
intentionally made villains that suck for.
So the good guys could win and you could root against them.
That's so dumb.
Star Wars is dumb.
You can tell George that. Why don't you write a letter?
Like, why didn't
Tell
you
him
make
that.
an imposing? And the B2 battle droids, they're supposed to be more imposing. But man,
Hey, they got that arm.
George Lucas is like, we're going to throw in 2 droidicas this movie. That's it. And the Jedi, when they see them, they're going to book it. They ran away.
They're a bit formidable.
Yeah, so George is
Only
like, this,
time we get speed sprint.
Yeah.
yeah.
Literally the only time.
George is like, it's not practical to have all these imposing villains. The Jedi are going to die. They got these little swords. What are they going to do? We got to have bad guys that suck. No one's competent. And even these droids in this episode, they weren't competent.
Except Thrawn.
No, think about it. The Bad Batch were running out of a corridor, right? A hallway, go to the hangar where their ship was. No, they didn't check corners. They weren't looking around to see what droids are looking. They knew the enemy were droids, and they just ran straight to their ship. And you even had Gunji stand there for a second thinking, should I get on this? Should I not? He's just standing there. I'm like, dude, you got someone shooting at you. And you're like thinking through this right now. Like, go. What are you doing?
But
So anyway,
But that's kind of
droids.
what I was getting at too before with like trusting clones, and that whole he's had his own traumatic experience. Like he's like, I've survived with these droids this long. I don't know what's going to happen with these clones.
True.
But droids, man.
I want to know what was in Wrecker's drink. That big old thing that he was like, that Rafiki looking stuff.
That the Wookiee handed him, or that he
Yeah.
took from the Wookiee?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
He's getting his drink on.
I know. And he convinced, what was it, Fives to get onto that too? So,
Fives is dead.
oh, what's his name?
Echo.
You
Fives
say
is
you love
not
this
alive.
series.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely a forgettable Bad
like-
Batch member for me.
It's like it's like Wookiee juice.
Wookiee.
Like jungle juice, but
Yeah.
it's like Kashyyyk juice.
Ooh.
The water of the trees.
Mm.
I don't know when it was. I'd be curious though.
What Star Wars planet would you most want to visit? For me, I think it's Kashyyyk. It's literally Avatar.
I'd say Camino. I love the rain.
You do. I've learned that.
Yeah.
I'd say
That's-
Alderaan before it blew up.
Oh, so to say, I know you're really into death. So I'm like, what time stamp are we saying here?
Before it blew up, but also during it blowing up.
Okay, like a minute before it blew up, so I could appreciate it and then be done. No more of this show. Well, yeah, I mean, even those cat creatures that the Wookiees were riding were so cool looking.
Oh yeah, that was a fun little like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Brought in here. Is that the first time we've seen them?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it reminds you so. I don't know what it is. I don't love the movies, the Avatar movies, but the aesthetic is so cool to me, and that world is so cool. And that's literally Kashyyyk without minus the neon.
Yeah.
It's so cool. So yeah, any chance we get to go back. I want to know why there was only like a couple clones and why specifically they were working with those I guess
Trandoshans?
yeah, that were trying to track down Wookiees. Like what was the deal there that they were working with the Empire?
Well, I don't know. Like the Trandoshans are working with the Empire, but what was he saying? The Commander Venomore, or whatever. But I don't know. It was just they're on that outpost. I didn't do my
Maybe
homework
it
on that.
was something with like Inquisitors because they were hunting a Jedi.
But that wasn't, they didn't know they were hunting a Jedi yet. It's like they were, because I know they need resources from Kashyyyk. Like we saw that in Fallen Order.
Yeah.
Well, they were
And-
there on Kashyyyk from like Revenge of the Sith, right?
Mhm.
And you know, the transition to the Empire was like, well, they're just gonna retake it over now, and we see some of that
'Cause-
transition during
well,
that
yeah.
video game.
Yeah, and we see him like getting enslaved in the video game, and a lot of them like Chewbacca getting taken off planet and thrown into camps. So interesting stuff there. Yeah, I would love to go deeper than this episode went, but we got.
I was fine with it. I didn't want to go any deeper on this episode.
You
That's
don't
why
like
I give it.
Wookiees.
No, I do. I just this one, I was like, this is a fine little story by itself, but I don't know the concept. Like again, kind of bringing back to it wasn't as consequential. It was more inconsequential to the overall story of it, but that's fine. Like Star Wars has those episodes.
I get
It's
that.
made up of that. But where did what was the overall number of this episode? Did we say?
Overall of this episode was a something 72.8%.
It's a solid, generous
That's
score.
That's fine.
With
Yeah.
the highest category, I think, being the music of this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. That was pretty solid. I do want to say I'm a little nervous right now because I've said that this season of Star Wars, for me, is my favorite season of any Star Wars season ever.
And I knew you would immediately regret that once we actually started talking about
Well,
that.
I'm a little bit nervous because season 3 of The Mandalorian is at 79%. Season 2 set at 78, and it looks like overall The Mandalorian's at a 78%. But what's interesting about it is it looks like the Bad Batch season 1 averaged a 69 or 63%, whereas this right now is at a 70. So we are in the weaker part of the season, and it's already significantly better than the holistic number of
for sure
the first season of Bad Batch. So knowing what's coming, like right now, it's pacing with the Book of Boba Fett, that kind of show, which I think is very fair as of what we've seen to this point. I don't think it's going to pace better than Mando season 3 at 79, which always hurts my heart that it's there because
But Mando also has 3 seasons.
Yeah, but it was the season 3 that we gave a 79%, which is still fair. It's still like a C+, but like
it was good.
The end of that season just killed me.
But you can't let the end ruin all the
Yeah.
other
That's
great
the good part about our
episodes
show because
before
it would have. You're right. It would have
Yeah.
ruined it for me because it did. But our numbers are what they are, and I can't go back. So that's the good part about our show. No bias.
I'm satisfied with at least that we're on track with season 2 Bad Batch being significantly better than season 1.
Yeah.
I think that much is true across the fandom.
Which is
I think
great
people would
because that
agree.
first season we just destroyed it, ripped it apart. And we started a Star Wars
We were
podcast
honest.
and immediately started hating on Star Wars.
Hey, we're here to be
We're
honest with our
offering
opinions.
constructive criticism.
And they
Yeah.
took it. They clearly listened to our
Yeah.
show, and they
Thank
did something
you.
positive. So thank you.
And we are going to reward you with higher numbers.
Yeah.
And now they'll stop trying again. Well, I do want to say, and KG right here said she should go back and watch episodes 5 through 7, which I highly recommend. I think they're probably the best of the season. Well, whatever this next arc is, maybe it's just 5 and 6, but
Right on.
great stuff is coming, and I'm so excited for it.
I'm excited.
With that, should we go into the hot take segment?
Let's do
Let's
it.
do it.
Let's do it. If I can find the transition. There it is.
Don't be too proud of this podcast you've constructed. The ability to rank content is insignificant next to the power of an exceptional hot take.
It is hot takes time. You both have hot takes today, it looks like, and a good amount of them. So, who really has one they're burning to just talk about?
Well, we had one submitted to us.
We did.
Yeah.
All
We
right,
love when we get fan
Yes.
submissions.
Love
let's
it.
talk about it.
I'm going to read it from my good friend DotR. He submitted, and this was back when we were ranking Mandalorian Season 3. Number 1, Moff Gideon is not dead. No one ever really dies in Star Wars, do they? The anticlimactic nature of his death is a tell. He is still alive. Now, who does he work for? Although he appears to be a trite and true imperialist, he does not get along with his colleagues in the Shadow Council. That is suspicious to me. I will draw some parallels to Thrawn. He also has his own agenda. While appearing to be of the highest Imperial Guard, he is still... Oh, it cut off on my screenshot.
You still what? We gotta
Something,
know,
something.
man.
And he talks about his supernatural instinct or battlefield strategy as he rose to his rank. Not loyalism, although he well disguised. His true loyalty lies with the Chiss ascendancy despite exile. Oh, I think... Did this... I'm sorry. The screenshot is... he thinks... So he's comparing him to Thrawn, and he thinks the same rings true for Moff Gideon. He has ulterior motives, and the fact that he is not wholly aligned with the Empire is a signal that he did not simply die as an Imperial agent. More of his story will be told, and my feeling is that it will align with Thrawn's. I think that's more of a prediction than a hot take, but it does, like we talked about this, we don't want Moff Gideon to be alive. Or I didn't want him to be.
I think that Moff Gideon is still alive. Personally.
I've thought a lot more about it. I've talked to some folks. I will say I like his fake out death to me. I wouldn't mind so much if it weren't the end of the season. And I get it. You want to be able to come back and showcase to fans like, oh, he's, when he does come back, people are just like, and leave a bunch of people speculating. And that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But really, I don't care. Like, as a villain and everything, I didn't ever find him super interesting. I've always been excited about Thrawn. Maybe they can write in something interesting. But yeah, this clone who was tracking Mando the whole time is like, you killed my clones. I can't believe you did this. I'm like, you didn't have the ability to at all stop him.
Yeah.
And there's so much about that last episode I won't get into. But overall, I don't care. Be alive. Be dead. The writers from Mandalorian I've lost faith in. Like the
I think.
Oh.
Wow. I think that KG wrote, I would think he'd be pretty crispy if he were alive. And in my
like
belief
that.
that he's still alive, I'm thinking that his clone died in the way that we saw on screen. But I think that the Moff Gideon that is the clonee is still among us. But I did, on piggybacking off what you were saying about that final episode, I think I wouldn't have been as underwhelmed if Moff Gideon as a character would have been more part of the story throughout the season instead of like right at the end they were like, oh look, here he is, and now he's dead.
Yeah.
I wish it was a little weaved through a little bit better.
Yeah. I said this before. I liked how they elevated him to be a much more serious or a better villain than we were kind of playing him out to be, and then they just killed him off. Or so we think. I do like DotR draw the parallel to Thrawn as like likened or aligned with Thrawn, whereas we talked about, I had the opposite feeling of, I think he would, trying to undermine or be another rival, a worthy rival of Thrawn, especially with that. So I find it interesting and that DotR submitted that too. He also had a short number 2 hot take. They obviously didn't have, I'm quoting him, they obviously didn't have time for this in the last couple episodes, but the love story between Din and Bo-Katan is there. What is Star Wars without love?
I don't care
DotR, that is Star Wars has always been a love story. So I have been saying that for years. And even though I think Bo-Katan is a lesbian or at least bisexual, and I think Din is probably asexual. In my own fan-made universe, I did like that there was that romantic tension because it feels familiar, and they were just such a great pairing together. Like, whether or not it feels, I don't know. I don't think Din is someone that feels ready to be vulnerable and like open in like a romantic relationship and anything like that. But in a partnership, him and Bo are clearly like a dynamic duo, and they have built a literal family together. So I mean, I guess it's just a matter of time until the romance is
I don't know.
there.
I couldn't care less. That last episode, my
still-
goodness, that was like some literal horse manure. I'm telling you.
What?
I'm watching that episode, and there's so many questions I have. Like, clearly, that writer's strike that went on in LA went on early in Lucasfilm, because let me tell you, that was insanity to me. You have these folks who are just like these Mandalorians who are like, do you have food? Do you have food? We need food. And then you find their home. They're like living underground with all these resources and water, and clearly are self-sustaining, like whatever. Oh, and they've been there this entire time, but didn't know the Empire was building a giant base underground at all. Not a single scouting mission found out about that. Whatever. That's okay. Maybe they can write in something there and make an excuse for that. That's fine. What about that aerial battle when the TIE interceptors came back down and, oh, we're expecting this dogfight? Never happened. Lots of stuff. And then, oh, the fact that I'm so mad we're having conversations of clearly that's his clone because he doesn't have a mustache and he has a mustache. So clearly he's alive. I'm like, the fact that we're talking about this.
Hey, don't dog Dakari on this. I was a fan of the romance. I'm like KG said, they had chemistry. I think it was more of the hot take realm because a lot of people I saw, there was discourse, like people were like, oh my gosh, not everyone has to be shipped or a love story or whatever. So I think that realm,
which is false because everyone does need to be shipped.
Yeah, I think I think that one of Dakari's is swimming more so in the hot take pool. So I will give him a thumbs up on the Bo and Din thing. But yeah.
Look, I'm gonna watch all the seasons. I have to. I've got this podcast. And I'm sure I'd feel different about it if I, wasn't doing this podcast and didn't care.
My ultimate favorite shipping of the Mandalorian has to have been Bo-Katan and the Armorer. If you had to ship, if you had to pick a better ship than Din Bo, what are you picking?
Din and Bo.
Or you could just say
Rancor.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
How about Grogu
Boba needs
and
love,
the Babu Frick guys?
Who in the Babu Frick?
Grogu.
And the
They
one
love
that got
each other.
Anzelian. Bad baby.
Bad baby. Bad baby.
Well, that's it. I voted. Did you vote?
I don't
Grief
care.
Karga and Cara Dune.
I mean, Bo Katan does deserve love. She deserves better than Din, though.
You could argue
True
that
that.
too.
Like she's a princess.
Yeah, she is.
I don't know.
And the Armorer would treat her like a queen.
The armor is lame too. I accept the one scene. The only part that was redeemable at all of the finale was when she comes out of the sky.
That was freaking cool.
I come from the land of the ice and snow. Just breaking helmets left and right. Just like Thor. It was awesome. It was just awesome to see. It was the only thing I loved about that. So
Well, thank you, Dakari, for submitting your hot take on the Duel of the Ranks website. And if you too would like us to read your hot take and you have something spicy to ruffle our feathers with, please submit it to us.
Yes.
We would love to read it.
Yep. With that, Christian, you have a hot take.
Yeah, well, let's play the sound effect for our homie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was indeed hot, so. Roger, indeed.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. And if you have your own hot takes, submit them at duelranks.com. There's forums and stuff there.
So do you want me to go back? Are you talking about my hot take of talking about Crosshair and killing the governor?
If you
No,
want to.
I mean, if
it
you
can
want
be
to.
anything you want,
I
really. What's your
don't.
hot-
Other
What's the
than that,
hottest take you of all the ones you submitted?
with these 3 episodes, I was just banking on Dakari's. I didn't have a. It's like I couldn't
Right.
think of a
Okay,
good hot
my
take. for
hot
these
take
3.
is that riot racing is cooler than regular pod racing.
I just feel indifferent towards that too. I'd say milquetoast.
I think the whole concept of riot racing just is better by default because it takes everything up a notch.
Yeah.
But Phantom Menace was so much better than that episode of The Bad Batch
Why?
because of the whole grand operatic story of this. And then you have like that race actually means something. Whereas we kind of talked about, we really didn't care about the results of that race.
Yeah.
Nope. I just felt indifferent. So, so milquetoast for me. What would you say, Christian?
On paper, yeah, it makes it. I don't think it's a hot take, but I agree with you. Like conceptualize it is.
It's okay.
Sorry, Amanda.
You fool! Your take is milk toast.
Okay, I've got one. While I do not think that Wanda Sykes is a bad actress, because I've seen her in plenty of other things that I thought she was good at. No complaints whatsoever. But I will say I think she was improperly cast in this show. I don't know what it is about the energy of this character. I think a different voice actress would have been better. That's all I'm saying. Nothing against Wanda. I think she's done fine and great in other things. But here, for me,
So
don't
what
know.
doesn't align with you? What feels like incorrect
It
about a
just
character?
feels forced. Everything she says kind of feels forced. Like the emotion of Wanda doesn't seem to match up with the animation of the character for me. And it just comes across as disingenuous. Like the character, Wanda has a big, expressive personality. And the emotion, the visuals on the face of this character do not. And so it seems to me like she would have a more like a softer voice and demeanor, kind of just like that, almost like what's her name from Rebels, the Mandalorian character. What's her name? Sabine. Kind of more that chill demeanor. She'll say some like, whatever, but she's always kind of even keeled with her tone. And that's kind of what I would expect from the voice of this character. So look, nothing against Wanda. I just think she was improperly cast in the show. I have no problem with her in it. Just don't think it's the right character.
I'm surprised that I'm saying this, but I think you made a really good argument.
Wow.
Really?
That's sad.
I
I
don't. agree.
think I could I kind of do see what you're saying, where like her expressions and her embodiment, I think, could be bigger to match the voice actor behind it. And maybe there is a little bit of disconnect between animated character versus voice actor.
I think so.
It sounds like.
But I still like Wanda Sykes, and I
Me
still
too.
like Fee.
Me too. Well,
So,
But I
like,
see
if
what you're
she
saying.
cracked more jokes, you think that would have fit better?
I think it's animation.
Yeah, I
It's
think
in the
it's more of
eyes.
her like, how like she's entirely embodied.
It doesn't match. And it, like, I get it. It's expensive to make it match. So bringing somebody
I'm
else.
gonna keep that in mind as more episodes go on and see if I feel that connection as we watch more episodes.
I'll say, like, I get what you're saying. I could care less if the animated character doesn't look anything like the live actor portraying them or actress. And I didn't really care to hold Fee. Like, it sounds to me like you want to put Fee in the Wanda Sykes box and not have Fee just be Fee.
It just feels disingenuous to me. Like, here's all this big expressive stuff I'm saying. It's all this big personality, but the eyes are like just.
I didn't even think it was that, like, she was certainly
inside.
expressive of like telling the story, but to me it didn't feel like a disconnect. But I don't know, maybe if I was like, really, I think you're picking nits. I think that's what that is.
So you're saying you disagree?
I disagree. I mean, I don't even know if it's a hot take because you're not saying anything bad about Wanda Sykes or anything.
I
Like,
have nothing bad to say.
yeah, and
Great
it's
actor.
like so. Sure, I'll just disagree.
All right, Amanda.
I agree.
All right. Well, that makes me feel good. Christian, do you have anything?
Nope,
Not a
not for
one?
this segment.
Not a one. All right. Well, for the last segment of the show, Force Goes Charlie. Let's go.
This is the way to trivia time!
It's trivia time. Christian, you got the question.
I do have something for this segment. So, going back to Fee's episode of the treasure hunting, you remember the beast, not the mechanical cyborg destroying thing, the beast that was wrestling with Wrecker along the way. That beast had the same animal sound effects as what other beast in the Star Wars universe? Was it A, Ackley, like the blue spider-like thing in Attack of the Clones at the arena? You know,
The
like
green one?
Yeah, bluish green turquoise. Was it a Sarlacc? Was it Reek, the Red Bull, in the Attack of the Clones battle arena? Or was it D, a Tauntaun?
Ooh. I'm going to say a
I'm not-
reek, and they adjusted the pitch.
I'm gonna say Sarlacc.
It was Reek. Or at least that's what it sounded like to me. I just saw this and
Unofficial question.
I'm pretty sure that's what that was. And if you people online can confirm it, just send it our way. That'd be great. But yeah, it was Reek.
All right.
Reek just reminds me of Game of Thrones, and I know neither of you have seen that, so it's lost on you, but other listeners will get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
No,
we saw that one scene that you showed
Of
us.
course, I can show you more
Well,
scenes if you'd want.
I'd rather not.
Yeah,
After
no.
that one. I think I'm good. I told that to so many people because they're like, oh, you just gotta you listen, you can get into it. You just gotta ease into the show. I'm like, I don't think I can. I'm like, why? I'm like, what'd you see? And I'm like, Pedro Pascal's death. I'm like, oh, that's how
That's
you
a rough
started?
one.
I'm like, yeah, I'm good. They're like, yeah, it makes sense. It's kind of like that. I'm like, yep, that's okay.
I ruined it for you, so it didn't have to be ruined by after all of the time you put into it.
I've
and
heard that
watching
it does that
Yeah.
show. That's kind of sad. Well, all
Good
right.
thing we're not reviewing that.
No, we're not.
Not
It's not a
really,
House
no.
of Dragon podcast. It
No.
is a Star Wars podcast. And with that, do we have anything else to talk about?
I think we wrapped it all up with 3 episodes. That's
Yeah.
like the most we've done in one, right?
Yeah.
We have listeners saying they did not know what a reek is.
That's okay. Reek, the Red Bull at the end of Attack of the Clones, the big battle on Geonosis. The
Yeah, what does it
horns, the
sound like?
hooves. Oh, I can't.
Yeah, what's
What's it sound like?
I can't do it.
It sounds cool.
Yeah.
It
That's what
sounds really
sounds
cool. I
like.
gotta just
You guys just keep
YouTube it.
talking. I'll find it. You guys just talk about
YouTube
something.
it.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Those beasts. Oh man, Attack of the Clones. Gosh, I love that.
All right.
Oh,
This is what
okay.
it sounds like for all you that don't.
I wonder if
remember.
it'll play in the
In the mic.
video,
It
in the
should.
audio.
It should. We'll see.
That's kind of what it sounds.
That like mooing, kind of like Bantha-esque type too.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Love
Kind of.
it.
Yeah. It's kind of a bull.
That played into the nostalgia. Watching that episode and hearing that, I was like, oh, I know what they did there. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Recycling sounds.
It
I
is
love
super
it.
cool. I love Mace Windu. I went back and I rewatched that scene. Mace Windu is literally just such a G throughout that entire sequence. I mean, from
I
start to
don't know
finish.
how we got here, but
Was-
Like, I love how he comes out and he just walks out casually. Like, it's just Samuel L. Jackson's like, if you're gonna make my voice so monotone, let my body language do all the talking. And so he starts out obviously a lightsaber in
This
front of
party's
Django's
over.
face. This party's open. Deflects everything, jumps off, gets into the fight. Next thing he does, takes out one of the horns of the reek as he's running backward. He turns around in one swing motion up, takes out one of the horns, falls back, gets up, picks up his lightsaber, runs at Jango Fett. No mercy. And when he cuts off his head, I noticed how he did he cut the lightsaber and then he did this backspin and cut his head off. And in the motion, he stretches his arms out to Dooku like, what? That's your boy. Like, gone.
Wow.
Gone.
And then he just
You,
looks at it.
Boba, orphan status. I'm just like,
Damn.
I was like, that's Samuel L. Jackson
That's
right-
cold.
right there.
Yep.
And that's basically all he got to be.
That would be
of-
my villain story too. My villain origin story.
So then it made me think, how good of a guy is Mace Windu?
Well, he fought with the light and the
He's
dark, right?
powerful.
I don't know. I can't speak on Mace Windu. I'm not an expert, but you know who might be a really great guest to have to talk about that would be guys on Dyad.
Well, they know about everything Star Wars.
I know.
They do. They joined us for a little bit tonight.
They did. They're good guys. They know about all things Star Wars all the time in all places everywhere. So
Don't say that too much, otherwise everyone's gonna unsubscribe to our podcast.
we have a different kind of podcast.
Yeah, we do.
though. It's us. We're the Star Wars pod. We're the folks who don't know anything about Star Wars. We're
Yeah.
just learning it along the way. Except Christian, you read the books, but those books you read aren't even canon anymore. So this is all new for you too. You haven't even
Yeah.
watched the rest of Bad Batch season 2.
Yeah, uncharted territory. But if you want more of our stuff, where should they find us?
You can check out Duel of the Ranks on our YouTube channel. If you check our live tab, you'll see our full episodes there, and we have clips on the video section. We also are active on Twitter. Sometimes we post on TikTok, but you can
It's
also
been like a month.
I know. It's,
We get to it when we get to it.
We're self-funded, so that's what you can expect.
Yeah.
And also just check out the website where we continue to update where all of these episodes fall in ranking order.
The numbers.
And you could submit your own hot takes there.
What a story, Mark. That was really well said. I appreciate that. That's all we got today, folks. Anything else you want to say?
Yub nub.
Yub nub.
Yub nub.
We're out. Bye.